They are diminutive. They are towering, they are mute, and they are observing us. Observers from every corner of the globe recount identical visions. Gaunt, pallid forms, craniums, vastly oversized. Gazes resembling endless obsidian voids that refuse to close. They materialize in sleeping quarters, along desolate roads, amid isolated meadows, far from aid. And invariably, the tale unfolds the same way. Immobility, gaps in recollection, icy grips, pulling one into oblivion. The gray extraterrestrial isn't merely a visual trope. It embodies the persistent terror that lingers eternally. Why do individuals separated by vast seas and diverse traditions depict this identical entity? Why does the psyche repeatedly conjure this singular, horrifying form? From classified dossiers to hushed tales of kidnappings, from chart-topping volumes to cinematic blockbusters, the Greys have emerged as the emblem of the mysterious and captivating. Some view them as explorers, others perceive them as hunters, and countless assert they are among us, unstoppable in their intent. To unravel the enigma of unidentified flying objects, one must commence with their most spectral inhabitant, the nocturnal intruders, the Greys. Chapter 1. The emblem of the gray extraterrestrials. When envisioning an otherworldly visitor, most don't conjure something vague or bizarrely abstract. Instead, they envision a slender silhouette with sleek ashen epidermis, a cranium disproportionately enlarged relative to its frame, and twin obsidian, ovalloid orbs that bore through obscurity. This depiction is permeated so deeply that even youngsters can render it effortlessly. Dubbed the gray extraterrestrial, it stands as the timeless emblem of cosmic life in contemporary lore. Yet, unlike inventions from a solitary movie or tome, the Greys transcend a lone origin. They feature in survivor narratives, ufological texts, speculative doctrines, and myriad artistic expressions. Gradually, this archetype has saturated society to the point where alien nearly equates to gray. The motif permeates entertainment, from epic screen sagas to animated series and viral online jests. Still, the chronicle of their ascent as the quintessential visage of the inscrutable is far more intricate. The emergence of the Greys as a prototype traces to the mid-20th century, although legends of peculiar entities antedate to Saucer Age. The 1961 episode involving Betty and Barney Hill furnished the masses with an indelible portrayal of these creatures. Through hypnotic regression, Betty detailed entities boasting expansive skulls, encircling gazes, and emaciated physiques. Upon publication, her narrative molded collective anticipations. The revelation that authentic observers, not mere fabulous-score, portraying such figures, embedded the Greys into modern awareness. In subsequent years, this portrayal solidified repeatedly. Through the 1970s and 1980s, seizure chronicles from the US and overseas echoed the core depiction. Compact entities with ashen hides, bulbous noggins, and expansive ebony orbs recurred universally. Investigators observed that isolates, divided by locale and heritage, proffered virtually matching specifics. This uniformity sparked inquiries. Were mutual influences at play, or were these veridical brushes with actuality? By the 1980s close, the gray silhouette solidified in mainstream media via Whitley Strieber's Communion. The author, recounting his personal brushes, emblazoned his smash-hit volume with a sketch that etched itself into memory. The visage-vast slanted orbs, flawless dermis, and a vacant glower proved instantly iconic. With millions in circulation, the gray proliferated across periodicals, cinema, and broadcasts. From the X-Files to Roswell dramatizations, from playthings to apparel, the gray transcended obscurity to claim cultural ubiquity. What renders the gray so potent visually? Psychology offers insight. Their morphology blends the recognizable with the expansive skull and orbs mimic an infant's traits, perhaps accounting for the dual reports of dread and odd affinity during brushes. Yet the ratios are distorted, excessively amplified, and aberrant, evoking the uncanny valley wherein resemblance breeds unease rather than solace. This equilibrium of kinship and estrangement renders the Greys profoundly spectral. Their supremacy also stems from austerity. Diverging from fanciful monstrous or arthropodoid aliens, The gray is pared down and elemental. The featureless countenance, the untextured form, the void of traits, like follicles or oracles, all evoke efficacy, sterility, and impassivity. They project as engineered for utility over uniqueness. Observers frequently depict them synchronizing seamlessly, executing with exactitude, devoid of autonomous cognition or character. Authentic or not, their depiction imparts an if cosmic kin exist, they resemble this. Societal amplification has amplified this. Successive UFO surges reverberate prior ones, anchoring the gray as the presumptive outsider. Yet, transcending mere fabrication, the grays derive from professed veridical episodes. Individuals recount sightings in domiciles, on forsaken paths, or within hushed vessels. This iterative attestation lends gravitas, absent in invented motifs. Even doubters concede the description's uniformity is noteworthy. Juxtaposed with alternate reported variants, the grays hold a privileged niche. Narratives of Nordic archetypes lofty, anthropomorphic forms with flaxen locks, and azure gazes or saurian monstrosities, with plated hides and talons pepper None, however, garner equivalent ubiquity. Visually, Nordics appear overly terrestrial. Reptilians, excessively grotesque. The grays bridge the chasm. Sufficiently exotic to qualify as alien, sufficiently akin to persuade. This poise ensures longevity. The gray extraterrestrial transcends transient vogue. It's a planetary prototype. Analogous sightings span Africa, Latin America, T-continent, and the Orient. Cultural variances notwithstanding, particulars converge. The lanky builds, the outsized crania, the somber orbs. Such alignment implies the gray archetype delves into profundity, be it psychic or extrinsic. Presently, the gray motif saturates existence. It adorns commerce, gaming, attire. Smartphone icons mimic the gray's profile. Non-fiction series and audio casts revisit them. Even detractors, scorning UFO yarns, embrace the gray as shorthand for cosmic life. To adherents, they signaled tangible interface. To cynics, emblematic of societal fable-weaving. Regardless, they demand reckoning. This segment traces the gray's trajectory from obscure seizure sketch to worldwide insignia. They command the extraterrestrial vista through terror laced with plausibility. Their form, buttressed by society, mind, and affidavit, has forged them as the inscrutable's countenance. Contemporary alien discourse defaults to the grays. Subsequent segments delve deeper. Anatomical attributes, Hennessy's conjectures imputed intents, and the brushes birthing their saga, whether interstellar sojourners, cerebral constructs, or hybrids thereof. The grays persist as ufologies. Paramount riddle. Anatomical traits. When recounting brushes with grays, the uniformity of somatic delineations spanning hemispheres and eras, from rustic isolations to notorious seizures, individuals reiterate particulars with eerie parallelism. These delineations underpin the prototype diminutive staturae. Unblemished dermis, a cranium mismatched to its torso, and tween ebony. Unwavering orbs. Herein, we dissect these attributes meticulously, delineating recurrent observer specifics and their role in framing gray comprehension. The predominant variant is the compact gray. Observers peg them at 3 to 4 feet elevated. Their frames appear delicate, with spindly appendages seeming underdeveloped beside the prodigious noggins they bear. Despite ostensible frailty, myriad seizure survivors attest these entities wield formidable corporeal dominancy, mobilizing humans, steering them with unforeseen vigor, or enacting maneuvers with automaton-like accuracy. Chronicles often portray them in clusters, seldom solitary, advancing in uncanny harmony. This prompts conjecture that compact grays operate not as isolates, but as a unified cadre, akin to automatons or laborers fulfilling directives. Sans quam, their ubiquity in seizure lore renders them the gray's most indelible emblem. Beside compact variants, Myriad survivors depict loftier iterations, termed tall greys or overlords. These loom at 6 to 7 feet, eclipsing humans and their pint-sized kin. Diverging from the task-bound compact greys, tall iterations exude command. Witnesses posit them as supervisors, orchestrating probes, marshalling subordinates, or interfacing psychically with captives. Testimonies hint that while compact greys exhibit rigid, marionette kinetics, tall greys evince fluidity and intent, implying sagacity and dominion. Their occurrence in seizure annals fuels hierarchical posits. Compact greys as toilers or biofabrications, tallest tacticians or emissaries of superior intellect. Observers near universally depict grey dharmas as sleek and barren, textured rubbery, hide-like, or synthetic. The eponymous hue predominates grey, yet deviations abound. Some term it pallid, choke-white, utters bluish-grey, under ambient glow. The dearth of imperfections, cicatrices, or organic variances heightens their artificiality. Unlike terrestrial hides mirroring vitality and persona, grey integument projects homogeneity, asepsis, and artifice. Conjectures posit genetic manipulation, replication, or artificial genesis. Irrespective, the recurrent sleek, unadorned dermis hallmarks the archetype. The grey's emblematic trait is their inordinately vast crania. Virtually all chronicles term them bulbous, flawless, devoid of follicles, or relative to reedy torsos, the skull dominates, oft comprising a third or more of stature. This inspires neurological musings. Augmented encephalic volume intimates, superior mentation tamas, perhaps underpinning telepathic prowess or elevated intellect. Two captives. The skull's scale imparts aberrant hegemony, as if cognition and mastery eclipse corporeal form. The frame, a mere scaffold, no attribute unnerves more than the grey's orbs. Delineated, invariably, as expansive, almondiform, and wholly ebenescens. Sclera, pupils, or iridista, mesmerize. Some liken them to lustrous onyx reflecting gleam, others to devouring abysses. Their psychic toll is immense. Myriad captives report catalepsy or mesmerism upon fixation, as if the entities wield cerebral sway via ocular lock. Analogies invoke arthropod, Fawcett's brain montes, or diptoran while. Others note iridescent dampness, animating them. These orbs, above all, torment survivors. Post-event, defining the cultural grey, portals to psyches at once evolved and horrifically estranged. Contrasting outsized orbs, grey orifices, are chronicled as minuscule fissures, linear slits, or absentee, seldom animate. Intercourse transpires psychically, sansponation. This oral paucity amplifies ear. Terrestrial affinity hinges on mimicry and utterance for rapport. The greys, muteness, and impassivity underscore alienation and glacial utility. Rare claims note slits parting faintly not for sustenance or discourse, but as cryptic anatomy. Analogously, oracles and nares, a negligible or nil. Where humans protrude lobes, greys of insplanar flanks. Olfactories, reduced to dual puncta or grooves. Sans dilation, gristle, or ventilatory form. This paucity intimates adaptation to alien milieus, or engineered sterility, obviating conventional respiration or audition. Absent sensory apparatus hints at esoteric faculties or non-biological essence. Appendages emerge elongated and attenuate, ostensibly brittle sans muscular relief. Arms disproportionately extend, terminating in tri- or quadradigital grasp, occasionally palmate or protracted. Legs mirror this slenderness, implying infirmity. Yet, paradox. Captives attest disproportionate potency, restraints, or escorts, defying frail aesthetics. This juxtaposition of delicacy and dominance disquiets profoundly. Locomotion chronicles. Veriet. Cherubert. Many depict stiff, puppetry gaits, joints askew from human norms. Others evoke levitation or planar glide, footprintless. Reticuli posit phasing through barriers, flouting physics, veridical or perceptual amid altered cognition. These kinetics underscore mechanical estrangement. The Gray's paramount horror resides in facial impassivity, sans brows, labia, or mimetic sinew. They project musk-like stasis. Captives recount dismay at countenances blind to anguish, trepidation, or kinship. This emotive chasm defines them. Lacking expressive conduits for commiseration, Grays proffer inert planes. To observers, this voids neutrality for apathy, as if human sentiments register nil. Collectively, these somatic hallmarks forge a uniform, gelid type. Compact Grays, petite and utilitarian, evoke laborers. Dalbarians, formidable and measured, evoke hierarchs. Unmarred hides, prodigious skulls, ebony orbs subvert biology. Oral, nasal voids, intimate otherness. Kinetics, rigid or ethereal, limply functional entities, not vital as we conceive. The Gray's morphology transcends depiction. Its psychic armament, each trait erodes affinity, while retaining humanoid echoes for credibility. This similitude difference, equipoise renders Gray's ufologies paramount, perpetual. Chapter 3. Genesis and Hypotheses. The inquiry into Gray provenance mirrors their elusiveness, uniformly depicted across heritages and expanses. Yet their veridical source splinters ufology into rival posits. Each endeavors to elucidate their aerial, domiciliary, mnemonic incursions, from celestial locales to chronologians, biofabrication, and multiversal seep. Gray's Inca audacious, disquieting modern speculations. An inaugural, swayful hypothesis anchors them to a stellar diet. Post-1961 seizure hypnosis. Betty Hill sketched a constellation purportedly displayed by her captors. Amateur stargazer Marjorie Fish aligned it with Zeta Reticuli, a binary 39 light-years distant, dubbed the Zeta Nexus. This proliferated through 1960s, 1970s ufology. Advocates cited the Hill's veracity and improbability of coincidental stellar mimicry. Detractors deemed the chart nebulous, retrofitted. Nonetheless, Zeta cemented Grays as potentially locatable cosmic kin. Beyond stellar, a chronal thesis relocates Grays, not extraterrestrially but futuristically. Herein, they embody hyper-evolved Homo sapiens across eons, encephalic hypertrophy, technodependence, and atrophied robustness might yield frail, glabrous, intellect-dominant forms. Their epical probes, archival, genomic reclamation, or ancestral reconnection, bipedal symmetry oculars, orifice, limbs bolsters, kinship claims, foes, decry chronal barriers. Yet its reframing of Grays as progeny captivates, transmuting foes to heirs. A tertiary posits Grays as non-organic, fabricated, or by uniformity, similitude, and impersonal traits. Synthetic hides, rigid kinetics, vacant, bisages, evoke mass-replicated clones, forge utility, interstellar toil, inquiry, human interface, impassivity, and procedural prowess substantiate. If veridical, progenitors, and aims query, self-duplicated for cosmic rigors, or vassals to superiors, contiguous, Grays as multiversal, not planetary. This seepage thesis pauses reality slipping, not spatial traversal, explicating law-defying feats, wall phasing, levitation, apparition, sun's ingress. It rationalizes hybrid materiality, corporeal yet oneric, proponents deign UFO seizures as parallel breaches. Critics brand it untestable breadth, yet immaterial material recurrences sustain it. Another frames Grays as proxies, not sovereigns. Captives depict minis as synchronized, non-individual. Proceed. Tall variants elicit deference. Non-gray archetypes Nordic humanoids or saurians occasionally command. Thus, greys as bioautomatons, bred for human proxy by overlords. Uniformity, impassivity, mechanics align. Veridical, it evokes veiled puppeteers and delegated intents. These hypotheses array mirrors reconciling uniform affidavits with evidentiary voids. Zeta prophesitis, yet hinges on ambiguous cartography. Cronell ties morphology to Flogny, but presumes arcane tech. Fabrication elucidates homogeneity, yet orphans creators. Multiversal rationalizes a bet. Proxy demotes autonomy, invoking murkier overlords. Unifying, each seeks order amid bafflement. Uniformity precludes happenstance. No hypothesis encompasses all. Some depict tactile verity, others insubstantiality. Isolates versus instruments. Nuances, accrucans, certitude. Gray genesis persists, interpretive, molded by context and affidavit as lore. To some, stellar exiles. 40 lich years. To others, futural mirrors, or fabrications, seepages, proxies, to phantoms. Verity may blend, compound, or elude conception. Evident, provenance enigma endures, mirroring their indelible form. Conduct and intents. Gray morphology's uniformity pales beside behavioral parity. Across myriad chronicles, seizure survivors delineate analogous sequences, intimating purposeful, meticulous operations and serendipity. From ingress to enactments, Gray's events detached, clinical routines profoundly quintessential narratives initiate nocturnally. Captives recount, recumbent repose disrupted by ambient presences. Catalepsy ensues, vigilance intact, yet locomotion nil. Phonation stifled, luminescence floods, oft with resonant drone, yielding abrupt relocation sans corporeal transit, merely situational transmutation. This temporal lacuna recurs ubiquitously. Hours elapse unheeded. Repatriation yields sped car reorientation, bewilderment, veiling the interregnum. Helplessness from immobility and amnesia sculpts mnemonic trauma. Intercourse, eschews, vocality for telepathy. Thoughts implant cerebrally, imperatives, solaces, elucidations, bypassing audition for intrinsic gnosis. Some evoke choral, cranial, choruses. Others singular grays amid mute cohorts, implying stratification. This mutism estranges from terrestrial paradigms, supplanting timbre and gesture with glacial mnemonics. Aboard vessels or alien ambits, medical rituals dominate, ranging corporeal audits to sanguine, tissular fluidic harvests. Captives depict supine restraint amid gray encirclement, wielding esoteric implements, luminous wands, scanners, traceless probes. Needles evoke pulsation over agony. Implants record diminutive embeds in nares, auriculars, or occult loci. Subsequent extractions yield ambiguous assays. Reproductive fixation predominates. Sperm, ova embryonic. Extractions abound. Gynec captives recount phantom gestations vanishing, intimating prematorial removals. Andric variants depict coerced seminal procurement via apparatus or psyche. This biocentricity spawns genomic assay conjectures. Contentious. Amalgamation. Captives view part human, part gray. Progenimenia, orb dominant, yet humanoid in hue. Contour. Some interface tactily, affection elicited amid terror, confusion, kinship, emotionally seismic. These imply donor roles, infusion agendas. Foracolites. Amalgamation, anchors, seizure, rationale, surveillance, motifs. Recurleset. Visions of icosidol, nuclear apocalypses, or terrestrial peril emerge. Grays as sentinels or scarce versus biorites, They infuse intent beyond extraction, stewardship or overarching glacial captives termed them apathetic, optimized, task immersed. Neil Commiserason, suffering unheeded bar wrote, psychic platitudes of innocuousness flatly, this void terrifies supremely, intimating alien ethics, sans human empathy morals. Yet positivity punctuates, some sense election, purpose beyond ken. Rare, transformative spirituality evokes cosmic linkage. These, though outlier, nuance hostility, positing ambiguity. Trauma, laced with import. Psychologists liken fear, election to cerebral reprisal, to inexplicable overloads, immobility. Control loss breeds dread. Narrativization yields destiny. This ambivalence obfuscates intense, dispassionate savants. Bioraiders, custodians, or veridical harbingers. No consensus crystallizes. Evident conducts uniformity, precludes caprice. Catalepsy, lacunae, telepathy, biorites. Reproductive skew, recur. Intensionomic, assay, fusion, oversight, vigilantly, deliberation. Eclipsing fortuity. Grey conduct buttresses functional ethos over emote. They manifest execute gallantly, evanesce, bequeathing fractured psyches and enigmas for experiencers. Intense on paramount. What do they covet? Why necessitate us? Pre-contemporary UFO antecedents. Though gray iconography binds to 20th century saucer surges, Post-Hill's 1961, antecedent resonances. Span antiquity, air extraterrestrial lexicon, global heritages chronicled petite, humanoid interlopers, pilotic caesura, mnemonic fractious implying gray motifs as perennial archetypes in mythos, legendary, and primordial glyphs. Celtic, Sylphic, annals, instance, evoke pallid miniatures absconding mortals to liminal domains. No Saktarin, pixies. These often malevolent, mound luring with temporal distortion. Parallels to seizures, stun, abrupt stasis, translocation, Beletian void. Middle Eastern jinn, lore, mirrors, coexistent invisibles, abducting, tormenting, evoking catalepsy, dominion loss. Dream reality blurs. Continental goblinery depicts pallid imps, harassing domiciliary, rustic isolates, indifferent to woe. Unifying motif, involuntary translocation to other realms, repatriation with mnemonic temporal warp. Culturally framed Celtic Phi, Arabian jinn, rustic gremlin Ziet, invariant, stasis, lacunae, aberrant entities, residual trauma, air saucers. Pre-1961 variants abounded. 1940s, 1950s contacts favored Nordic benefactors, yet outliers noted diminutive aberrants. 1950s Brazilian Antonio Villas Boas chronicled seizure by large-headed undersizeds. Predating Hill's infamous reproductive twist aside, traits presaged Gray's European, American fringes echoed, overshadowed by glamorous space brethren. Ufologists posit Gray latent. Pre-Hill's mind continuative, from myth to glyphs, to proto-contacts, intimates. Non-modern genesis, aboriginal Ozite cavernery. Wangina orba crowned, mouthless, vast-orbed spirits. Eerily grey analogous, Latin petroglyphs. Ocular dominan. Skidis African rupestry. Attenuate, cranium. Shamans, recast as contacts. Medieval, continental iconry. Dark-orbed enigmas, ambiguously. Critics decry retrojection, yet visuals persist. Jungian archetypes elucidate. Shared unconscious yields recurrent symbols, insomnia, myths, visions. Gray's veridica, or psychic effluvia. Undeniable. Petite, pallid, nogandaminia. Recus historically. Celtic sylphs, to Jin to Wangina. To Prehill's fringes link. Modern grays. Archetypal redux, or perennial interface. Either they transcend 20th century fancy, woven into humanity's timeless confrontation with reality's fringe. Pivotal gray encounter. Dossier. Gray preeminence derives not from conjecture but seminal episodes, layering detail, credence. Some birth delineations, others mass affidavits. Few cultural milestones, disseminating beyond ufology. Cumulatively, they scaffold the archetype. Modernity dawned 1961. New Hampshire's hills. Nocturnal White Mountains Drive. Nocturnal White Mountains, yielding Bineal Lacuna. Homeward amnesia spurred somnial mnemonic probes. Hypnotist Dr. Benjamin Simon elicited vivid seizures. Large-headed, orb-encircling minis. Barney's ocular terror, event trauma. Betty's stellar cartography. Per Marjorie Fish Mirad Zeta Reticuli, 39 light-years off. Kneecap Blue Book scrutiny cemented as inaugural major seizure, embedding grays. Missing time in lexicon. 1975 spotlighted Arizona's Travis Walton, logging sextet. A spied hovering disk. Walton's approach met azure beam, hurling him. Companions fled. Quintette, vanishing, sparked homicide suspicion. Reemergent, parched. Walton detailed gray analogous minis aboard. Plus, taller humanoids implying collaboration. Polygraphs, companions, passed. Walton mixed fortified. 1993's Fire in the Sky amplified to massive. 1980's Terminus. Stryber's 1987 Communion rocketed Gray's mainstream. Recurrent brushes chronicled, covers, or vast gray, unforgettable. Bestseller sequels film Walken permeated psyches, transcending niches to icons. 1994 Zimbabwe's Aerial School. 60-plus juveniles witnessed disco-lighting playground. Large-orbit minis telepathically. Warn ecocide tech abuse. Harvard's Dr. Jong Max interviews videotapes. Evince sincerity, consistency, youth untainted by media bolstering gray evidence. Global. Brahil's 1957 Brazilian villas. Boaz. Large-headed undersizes. Reproductive notoriety aside. 1970s-80s Brazilian seizures echoed U.S. medical fusions. 1989 Russian Voronezh. Juveniles adults chronicled tow minis. Gray like a mid-park landing. Soviet press. Soviet nuke sites. Echoed. Australian luminous grab lens. Pattern. Uniformity-laced variants. Hill's birthed archetype. Walton added witnesses polygraphs. Hybrid Stryber mainstreamed visage. Aerial mass. Youth. Envoy. Internationals globalized. Skeptics invoke contamination. Prehills. Aerial isolates. Confound. Believers. Temporal. Geographic parody signals. Verity. Culturally attuned. Skeptic or acolyte. These dossiers narrativise grays, not isolates, but chain each, reinforcing, nuancing. Contemporary seizures evoke Hill's highway, Walton's beam, Stryber's gaze, Ariel's playground. Stitched, they render Gray's abductions not unknown's countenance. Biomedical motifs. Gray encounter chronicles most perturbing facet. Medical genomic rights audits, harvests, fetal implants, extractions. Hybrid uniformity renders central to seizure inquiry, intimating bioextractive intense eclipsing reconnaissance. For experiencers, invasive, scarring. Rites commence supine amid craftly tables, gray encircled, detachedly wielding. Nidos wands, evoke pulsatile, viverent, igneos, sansagoni, ginic abdomino, reproducti, proves, andric seminal, coercion, mechanical, psychic, non-consensual. Experiencers feel experimental fodder, reproductive crux, ovulosuction, sharpness, telepathic, imagery imparted impregnations, vanishing prematurely, intimating removals, andric variants, distressing, involuntary extractions, spectral gestations, miscariacis, sans bisivile tenure, controversial apex, hybrids, partuman grey, progenipet orb scaldament, yet humanoidly hued, contoured and veiled for tactile, affectionate interface, overwhelming terror, confusion, kinship, maternal, paternal stirrings, amid aberration, Jacob Zedel, posit fusion regimen, Donorol's harvest broadens, Tisler incisive, fluidic extractions, sanguine phlebotomies yielding scars, dizziness, fatigue, bioresource impression univocal, implants enigmarize, grain metallics, crystallines, nasally, orally, limb-embedded, removals, layers, isotopic rarities. Structures yield terrestrial mismatches, skeptics term mundane ingress, persistent, implying surveillance, psychosomatic toll, terror, violation from unexplained, consentless woe indifferent rights, grays glacially expressionless, mute, optimized amplifies outrage, mnemonic suppression, fragmentation yields hypnotic unearthing, earthly medical echoes looms, stasis, silent figures, yet insistently alien, nuance, election amid violation, hybrid bonds yielding purpose conflict, lifelong ambiguity, plundered yet purposed, skeptics, subprojections of iatrophobia, reproductive angst, paralytic somnia, iviophora, accessible yet cross-cultural decada, uniformity needles, fetals, hybrids precludes happenstance, gray rights and variants Americas, Europe, Africa, intimates, deliberate, bioculture, tech indifferent harvest, table ergonomic, not mineral floral, repair, fusion, asset, unresolved, unresolved, evident, post-right alteration defies, exlocation, trauma veridical, phenomena, unproven, scars, implants, memories, emotives, transcend, fancy, Biotham's core abductions, distinguishing grays, humanity is probed harvested, altered by detached intellects, assaults autonomy, safety axioms, literal, symbolic, they haunt, reinforcing who what, covets uase, apparatus, and vessels, gray tech, unnerves, Aconly too. Two, progenitors, chronicles delineate interiors, apparati, alien to terrestrial forge, minimalist, unjointed, captives, since Vezelbean symbiosis, mentation guided sans quintessential, sauceroids, sleek orbs hover mutely, faintly radiant, darting hyperkinetically, inertialessly orthogonal. 1952 DC radar and pilots, affirmed later. FAA Air Force echoed, gray-linked, triangulars grid-tied. 1989-90 Belgian search silent ebon wedges coronally lit, outpacing jets, rederivative, oppressive, hush, abductees link as carriers, disks, orbs operatives. Spheres recur, luminary yet non-diffusive. Beam lifts to craft, 1967, Canadian Falcon Lake. Beam interiors, seamless curvatures, sans fixtures, metallically gray, luminescently alabaster, self-illuminant. Walton's 1975. Curved metallics, sourceless gleam, presence-responsive planes. Sans toggles. Organic evocations, control, mentic sans, manipulation. Instant, grays, stationary, orbs, consciousness machine, fusion, conjectured, apparati, scanning, limbs mobilizing, lifting, transiting, corporal sweeps, tingling, vibrant, penetrant, trace tables, glowing, restraintless, yet paralytic, energetic, telepathic, probes, wands, crystals lumming, scarless extractions, implants, rice metallics, nasally, etc. Leers, removals, isotopic exotica, meteoric hints, skeptics, mundane, shrapnel, anomalies, linger. 1989 NYC Cortile, window levitated, loomed, grape-roped, implanted, UN witness corroborated, global parity discs, triangles, physics-defying, seamless glows, extractive scans, skeptics, hospital SIP projections, paralysis, believers, isolate, global uniformity, evinces verity, great eclitoral psychic abduction defining, inseparable from cerebral sway, silent saucers, beam paralysis, embed reminders, intimate, absolute study, control, advancement eclipses, hours, biomachinic, thought material, for captives, lived, seamless, chill, beam stasis, subdermal, purpose, human dominion, efficaciously, affidavit consistencies and motifs, gray brushes, hallmark, testimonial uniformity, cross-culturally, linguistically, delineations, uncanny, petitai, nogendominan, ibanyarbed, kinet. Recurrence transcends detail to theme repetition, even amid isolate score to seizure paradigm, paralysis, ubiquity, nocturnal arousal to ambient figures, locomotion, voicelessness, imposed, dread respiratory, cry stifled, initiatory terror, apex, translocation, levitative egress, barrier phasing, luminary envelopment, fragmented transit ceilings, arbory below yields, craftly ingress, reality, telepathy, cranial thought implant, sans phonation, imperative, segundo por segundo, olasis, images ecosides, cataclysms, abstruse, or infodums, invasive, ineffable, aftermath, PTSD, analog somnial recurrences, flashbacks, somnic aversion, isolation, anxiety, minority, purposive election, comfort amid disturbance, lacunae, horal voids postgraph figure, repatriative, disarrayan, fatigan markings, eximatan cicatrices, ampunct, clap companion discrepancies, unveil, hypnosis post hills, mnemonic unearthing craftly, graze probes, critics, false memory forge, proponents, Tromaxis, Hopkins, Mac Jacobs, amassed patterns reinforcing, variants, stratification 3 to 4 feet minis, procedural as 6 to 7 feet tall directive, telepathic, drone true intellect posits, rare non-grace. Nordic supervisors reassurant. Warnings, Saurian hierarchs graze subordinate, multi-entity implication, global invariance, Americas, Africa, etc. Core stasis, phasing, telepathy, lacunae, probes, lacunae probes, culture, UFO-NIIVET, skeptics, somnial, universality, suggestive hypnosises, believers, decadal cultural isolate, parity signals, shared verity, not delusion, testimonies, core phenomenon, not isolates, but scaffold recurrent framework, compelling narratively, for experiencers, undeniable impact, researchers, troubling evidence, archetype, suggestion, veridical, patterns, intrigue. For decades, the figure of the gray alien has haunted the fringes of our culture, but its deepest roots are intertwined with the very machinery of governance. Particularly in the United States, whispers of secret government files, clandestine investigations, and massive cover-ups have persisted for over 70 years. While the evidence is often fragmented and hotly contested, the wall of official secrecy has only amplified the public's suspicion that something profound is being withheld. Let's peel back the layers of this fascinating and enduring enigma. The story arguably begins with the US government's first major public investigation into unidentified flying objects, Project Blue Book, running from 1952 to 1969 under the Air Force. Its official mission was twofold: to determine if UFOs posed a threat to national security and to scientifically analyze the data collected. Over its 17-year run, Blue Book investigated more than 12,000 sightings. While most were eventually explained as misidentifications of known phenomena, over 700 cases remained stubbornly unidentified. Within these unresolved files, we find sparse but tantalizing descriptions that seem to foreshadow the modern gray archetype. Witnesses reported encounters with small beings, often near landed craft, described as having large heads and big, dark eyes. Though the project concluded there was no evidence of extraterrestrial vehicles, its many unexplained cases and intriguing witness descriptions left a legacy of unanswered questions, feeding the idea that the full story was locked away in classified archives. But to find the true origin of the modern government cover-up narrative, we must go back even further, to the summer of 1947 in Roswell, New Mexico. The initial story was sensational. A press release from the Roswell Army Airfield announced they had recovered a flying disc. The world was captivated, but within 24 hours, the story was officially written. The military held a press conference, displaying debris they claimed was from a simple weather balloon. For decades, that was the official story. However, starting in the late 1970s, former military personnel and civilian witnesses began coming forward with astonishing accounts. They spoke of not just wreckage made of strange, otherworldly materials, but also the recovery of non-human bodies. The descriptions were remarkably consistent. Small beings with large heads and huge, dark eyes. These alleged bodies and the debris were said to have been secretly transported to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio. In the 1990s, the Air Force responded to renewed public interest by releasing 2 reports, concluding the incident was a combination of a top-secret high-altitude surveillance program called Project Mogul and crash test dummies. But critics were unconvinced, pointing to inconsistencies in the reports and arguing that the initial hasty retraction in 1947 was the first move in a long-standing cover-up. Roswell became the bedrock of modern UFO lore, forever fusing the image of the gray alien with the concept of government secrecy and deception. The narrative of a secret government cabal took a dramatic turn in the 1980s, with the leak of the MJ212, or Majestic 12 documents. These purported top-secret papers, mailed anonymously to researchers, described a clandestine committee of scientists, military leaders, and government officials. According to the documents, this group was formed by President Truman in 1947, specifically to manage the aftermath of the Roswell crash and subsequent interactions with an extraterrestrial race. The beings described were, once again, the Greys. The documents went even further, alleging a secret treaty had been established. In this supposed pact, the government would allow the Greys to conduct limited abductions and genetic experiments on the human population in exchange for access to their advanced technology. The FBI quickly declared the documents a hoax, and many ufologists agreed, pointing to signature inconsistencies and anachronistic formatting. However, other researchers argued that, while some documents might be fraudulent, others contained information that seemed uncannily accurate, suggesting a sophisticated disinformation campaign designed to muddy the waters. Regardless of their authenticity, the MJ212 papers cemented the idea of a deep state pact with Greys in the public imagination, creating a powerful and enduring mythos. No location is more synonymous with government secrecy and aliens than Area 51. This remote detachment of Edwards Air Force Base in the Nevada desert was, for a long time, a base whose very existence the US government refused to officially acknowledge. Its location was only declassified in 2013. The intense secrecy surrounding the site made it a natural focal point for speculation. The speculation exploded in 1989 when a man named Bob Lazar came forward, claiming to have worked at a hidden facility called located near Area 51's Papoose Lake. Lazar alleged he was part of a team tasked with reverse engineering captured extraterrestrial spacecraft. He described several distinct types of disc-shaped craft, one of which he said was powered by a stable element he called Element 115. Crucially, he linked this technology and the recovered vehicles directly to the Greys. While investigators have raised serious questions about Lazar's claimed credentials and background, his detailed accounts captured the public SAE. His story transformed Area 51 from a simple secret base into the mythical heart of the alien cover-up. A place where captured sources were stored and dissected, and where Greys perhaps even worked alongside human scientists in vast underground complexes. Beyond sensational leaks and whistleblower testimonies, more mundane government records have also added fuel to the fire, thanks to the Freedom of Information Act, or FOIA. One of the most famous examples is the Hodel Memo. This 1950 document, from Guy Hodel, the head of the FBI's Washington field office, relays a second-hand account from an Air Force investigator. It describes the recovery of 3 so-called flying saucers in New Mexico. Inside each craft, the memo states, were 3 bodies of human shape but only 3 feet tall, dressed in metallic cloth. They were described as having large heads. Other declassified documents hint at UFOs showing interest in nuclear weapon sites, and refer to encounters with small figures. While these official documents are often heavily redacted and written with cautious, bureaucratic language, the recurring patterns small beings with large heads found in connection with advanced craft are hard to ignore. They represent small cracks in the wall of official denial, trickles of information that reinforce the central themes of the broader Grey narrative. When you weave all these threads together, from Project Blue, books, unresolved cases, to the Roswell incident, the MJ12 papers, the legend of Area 51, and the tidbits gleaned from FOIA, a single powerful theme emerges: the suspicion of a massive ongoing cover-up. On one side, you have official denials and mundane explanations. On the other, you have sworn affidavits from credible witnesses, leaked documents that are alternately declared hoaxes and defended as genuine, and highly classified military bases that are shrouded in impenetrable secrecy. Each new revelation, whether it's a declassified memo or a new whistleblower, doesn't seem to solve the mystery. Instead, it only deepens the enigma, adding another layer of complexity to the puzzle. Of course, there is a strong, skeptical perspective. Many argue that the entire alien narrative is a convenient myth, a techno-myth that serves as the perfect cover story for the development of advanced, but entirely human, military technology. To a skeptic, the flying saucers are experimental aircraft, like the U-2 or stealth bombers, and the aliens are a useful fiction to misdirect foreign intelligence and a curious public. This view suggests the government doesn't actively promote the alien story, but is happy to let it flourish as a form of passive misdirection. However, believers see it differently. For them, the sheer volume of eyewitness testimony, combined with the government's pattern of secrecy, silence, and occasional outright denial, points to a concealed truth. They argue that the overlap between witness accounts, people who have never met, describing the same types of beings, and crafties too significant to be a coincidence. For believers, the silence isn't an absence of evidence. It's evidence of a concerted effort to hide incredible encounters and secret studies. Ultimately, whether you're a skeptic or a believer, one thing is undeniable. The nexus between the gray alien and the secret state has profoundly shaped modern belief systems and our relationship with government. The narrative, pieced together from a crash in the New Mexico desert, rumors of a secret committee in Washington, tailies from a hidden lab in Nevada, and the slow drip of information from declassified files, forms a powerful modern legend. Whether the Greys are real biological entities from another world or simply a powerful archetype representing our anxieties about technology and hidden authority, their story is now inseparable from our deepest questions about the nature of power and what secrets our own governments might be keeping from us. Societal and empirical reverberations. Gray iconography eclipses isolated seizures. Testimonies. Half-century renders symbol of enigma, infusing cinema TV. Tomes. Art cultural fixture Akinley. Two claimants' visions. Archetype dominance queries, or psy-projection. Self-reinforcing in collective. Culture extraterrestrial. Synecdoche. 1977 Close Encounters. Gray going thin, large-headed enigmas. Benevolent. 1980s Communion. Kavaga's iconic. Millions exposed. 1990s X-Files. Gray core mythology. Sinister cover-up. Generational synonymy. Ads and cartoons. Segundo por segundo. Atires, adoptee, dash, shirts, slash tabloids, slash games, dash, mother mythos, repetition cycles, media reinforces. Archetype, witnesses, imagery attuned. Echo, contamination versus verity debate. Psychology, Jungian UFOs. As unconscious effluvia, Greys symbolize technosphere, dehumanization. Autonomous somnal studies. Paralytic awakenings, hallucinate presences, dread levitation, suffocation, seizure. Skeptics, resolve Sanzi, counter, Mac Hopkins. Mac Hopkins, Mac Harver. Trauma, consistency, life alteration, genuine, psi. Cultural legit, Hopkins 1970s hypnosis. Hundreds amassed medical reproductive gray patterns, missing time. Intruders popularized, Jacobs, fusion program human gray. Blends societal integrating, long-term critics, hypnotic suggestibility, media taint, false memories. Yet abductee emotive, physique. Life shifts undeniable, Gray's duel. Pop icon. Serious proba, fear, fascination. Control, tech, cosmic queries, embodied, archetype, reality. They tap human profundity solitude, nocturnal interlopers. None amid UFO iconai, none persists like Grays. Pallade. Sleek Larsnagen. Unblinking ebony, dominating affidavits. Probes. Culture. Central enigma. Dreaded yet known. Why? Paramount. Repertorial uniformity. Brazilian agrarians. Zimbabwean. Juvinos. Arizonan woodsman. New Englanders echo petite. Large-headed, dark-orbed, detailed Barrius. Core. Invariant. Folklore. Shifts. Gray's uniform weighty. Veridical. Psychic potent, yet proofless. No autopsied corpus. Labbed device. Affidavits paramount. Oft marked. Implanted. Sans debate silencing materiality. Paradox Cories, most described, least substantiated, reality imagination, interstice, debate perennial, Ancitafliskin, future homo, bioconstructs. Unconscious spheres, incarnate, each contended, unproven. Gray's mere disquiets. Clinicality equals experimental subjugation. Telepathic silence equals privacy. Control invasion. Reproductive skew equals tech genetic futurity hopes, fears, human and otherness. Aeatric. Scientific and surpasal, yet fascination tempers. Election. Purpose. Hybrids. Warnings. Render teachers. Fragility. Duality endures. Terror. Compel. Invasive. Revelatory. Familiar. Elusive. Cultural constant. Reality unconfirmed. Cases. Theories. Accrusions. Cluser. Researchers. Opportunity. Frustration clearest thread. Hardest proof. Skeptics. Memory molder. Exemplar. Believers. Near grasp. Interaction. Public. Unknown icon. Black orbed from cover screens. Imagery. Ambiguity empowers. Minimalist avoids. Project fears. Contact queries. Humanity queries. Existence. Mind. Lens to existential riddles. UFO inquiry. Persist hearings files. Sciensta. Gray's central. Referential. Most described. Imagined. Invoked cosmic queriers. Ultimately, less identity than signification. Unfading mysteries visit. Science. Ticket. Unanswered. Queries reminder. Belief. Doubt. Reality. Imagination. Fear. Fascination. Frontier dwellers. Therein, they thrive known, yet fugitive unknowns. The Odyssey concludes, but if vigilance lingers, unwind into vignette compendium. Esoteric brushes, murmured rarities. Kosiseradrum brush, 1990. Slovakia, 1990. Czechoslovakia, teetered post-Velvet Revolution. Institutions fluxing amid communism's demise. Eastern Slovakia's Kosis International, Pivotal Nexus, hosted aviation's oddest Central European episode. Controllers, pilots, Slovak Air Force versus unaccountable aerial interloper. April dusk, routine Prague. Vienna inflows, seamless. Radar pinged Abrin, vivid. Clutter-free. Controller queried nearing CSA Tupolev. 2154. Pilot affirmed visual. Steady white brilliance, non-pulsing, autonomous. Windowed passengers corroborated pacing glow. Tower liaised to Bratislava. No unscheduled. Escalated Slovak Air Force Slyak interceptors. Object neared runway. Tower balcony espied luminous spheroid. Low altitude. Basketball line. From a 4 kilometers distant. Colossus. Radios crackled interference. MiG-21 scrambled. Pilots glimpsed evasive glow. Outpaced. Fuel waned. RTB. Echo steep climbed to oblivion. Prague CAA commandeered transcripts. Air Force report classified. Local rags whispered. Luminous anomaly. Pilot's incredulity. Controllers etched. Not aircrafts. Aslina. Non-atmospheric. Skeptics. Satellite. Venus. Radar interference. MiG-Ts unaccounted. Soviet test. Performance unmatched. Circulated Euro ufologists. Radar visual. Professional. Military-chase. /post-silence hallmarks. Slovak archives logged redacted April anomaly. Context. Soviet egress. Warsaw fray. Czech-Slovak. Sezamsa i Kositions. Immediate. Kasishas. Passengers. Field dwellers. Orb darted. Controllers radar. veridical, solid, unfiled, unpurgeable airspace intruder. Today, Premier Central Euro case. Institutional acknowledgement. Unexplained. Not orb. Plane satellite tracked jet chase pilot passenger log. Tech faulted authority muted. 1990. Slovakia's firmament unveiled regime-proof enigma. Trancas episode. October 21st, 1963. Argentina's tranquil agrarian. Trancas northern precinct. Roused. 3 Moreno sisters. Arminda, Yolanda, Magdalena, from slumber via canine frenzy. Ailing matriarch, rear-bedded. Potter absent business. Bark unrelenting. Then droning. Vibration wall Permian not engine electrical. House looms dimmed. Blued. Stabilized. Armenda. Outdoor probed. Rallygason field bore. Linear quintet. White orbs, low hoovering, smoke belching, beam sweeping mechanically. Dog cowered, sisters mesmerized. One beam house latched, red hot blistering, peeling durbeam steamed. Sisters barricaded, matriarch bewildered. Blue cast permeated drapes, hum wall conducted. Radio self-ignited, /FUZZED. /silenced. Phony nerth. Corporal prickling heat. Yolanda nocient. Dog bed cowered. Hour huddled. Hum ceased. Glow dissipated. Dawn. Ozone reek. Beam scorches. Wilted flora. Latch warped. Orb circles flattened metrically. Amid UFO iconae. None persists like grays. Palladae. Sleek Larsnagen. Unblinking ebony dominating affidavits. Probes. Culture. Central enigma. Dreaded yet known. Why? Paramount. Repertorial uniformity. Brazilian agrarians. Zimbabwean. Juvenos. Arizonan woodsman. New Englanders echo petite. Large-headed, dark-orbed, detailed Barrius. Core. Invariant. Folklore. Shifts. Gray's uniform weighty. Veridical. Psychic potent, yet proofless. No autopsied corpus. Labbed device. Affidavits paramount. Oft marked. Implanted. Sans debate silencing materiality. Paradox cories. Most described. Least substantiated. Reality imagination. Interstice. Debate perennial. Ansita fleskin. Futural homo. Bioconstructs. Unconscious fears. Incarnate. Each contended. Unproven. Gray's mere disquiets. Clinicality equals experimental subjugation. Telepathic silence equals privacy. Control invasion. Reproductive skew equals tech genetic futurity hopes. Fears. Human in otherness. Aeatric. Scientific and surpassal. Yet fascination tempers. Election. Purpose. Hybrids. Warnings. Render teachers. Fragility. Duality endures. Terror. Compel. Invasive. Revelatory. Familiar. Elusive. Cultural constant. Reality unconfirmed. Cases. Theories. Accrucens. Cluser. Researchers. Opportunity. Frustration clearest thread. Hardest proof. Skeptics. Memory molder. Exemplar. Believers. Near grasp. Interaction. Public. Unknown icon. Black orbed from cover screens. Imagery. Ambiguity empowers. Minimalist avoids. Project fears. Contact queries. Humanity queries. Existence. Mind. lens to existential riddles. UFO inquiry, persist hearings files. Sciensta, Gray's central, referential, most described, imagined, invoked cosmic queryers. Ultimately, less identity than signification. Unfading mysteries visit. Science, ticket, unanswered. Queries reminder. Belief, doubt, reality, imagination, fear, fascination, frontier dwellers. Therein, they thrive known, yet fugitive unknowns. The Odyssey concludes, but if vigilance lingers, unwind into vignette compendium. Esoteric brushes, murmured rarities. Kosiseradrum brush, 1990. Slovakia, 1990. Czechoslovakia, teetered post-Velvet Revolution. Institutions fluxing amid communism's demise. Eastern Slovakia's Kosis International, Pivotal Nexus, hosted aviation's oddest Central European episode. Controllers, pilots, Slovak Air Force versus unaccountable aerial interloper. April dusk, routine Prague. Vienna inflows, seamless. Radar pinged Abrin, vivid. Clutter-free, controller queried, nearing CSA Tupolev. 2154. Pilot affirmed visual. Steady white brilliance. Non-pulsing. Autonomous. Windowed passengers corroborated pacing glow. Tauliest. Bratislavano. Unscheduled, escalated Slovak Air Force Slayak interceptors. Object neared runway. Tower balcony espied luminous spheroid low altitude, Bascaline. From a 4 kilometers distant Colossus. Radios crackled interference. MiG-21 scrambled. Pilots glimpsed evasive glow. Outpaced. Fuel waned. RTB echo steep climbed to oblivion. Prague CAA commandeered transcripts. Tapes. Air Force report. Classified. Local rags whispered luminous anomaly. Pilots, incredulity. Controllers etched. Not aircraft solid as liner. No, not atmospheric. Skeptics. Satellite, Venus, radar, interference. MiG-Ts unaccounted. Soviet tests, performance, unmatched. Circulated Euro-ufologists. Radar visual, professional. Military-chase/post-silence. Line saw marks. Slovak archives logged redacted April anomaly. Context. Soviet egress. Warsaw fray. Czechoslovak some secrecy. Amplified. Positions immediate. GSA passengers light-tailed. Field dwellers. Orb darted. Controllers radar veridical. Solid unfiled. Unpurgeable airspace. Today. Premier's Central Euro case. Institutional acknowledgement, unexplained. Not orb. Plane, satellite-tracked, /jet-chased, /pilot-passenger-logged. Tech faltered, authority muted. 1990 Slovakia's firmament unveiled regime-proof enigmatic. Trancas episode, October 21st, 1963. Argentina's Tranquil Agrarian. Trancas Northern Precinct, roused. 3 Moreno sisters. Arminda, Yolanda, Magdalena, from slumber via canine frenzy. Ailing matriarch, rear-bedded. Potter absent business. Bark unrelenting. Then droning. Vibration wall Permian not engine electrical. House looms dimmed. Blued, stabilized. Armenda. Outdoor probed, relegation field bore. Linear quintet. White orbs, low hoovering, smoke belching, beam sweeping mechanically. Dog cowered, sisters mesmerized. One beam house latched, Red hot blistering. Peeling durbeams steamed. Sisters barricaded. Matriarch bewildered. Blue cast permeated drapes. Hum wall conducted. Radio self-ignited. /FUZZED. /silenced. Phony nerth. Phony nerth. Corporal prickling heat. Yolanda nocient. Dog bed cowered. Hour huddled. Hum ceased. Glow dissipated. Dawn. Ozone reek. Beam scorches. Wilted flora. Latch warped. Orb circles flattened metrically.